The Secret Life of JFK Jr. What America Never Knew. He was the boy who saluted the grave of his father, an image that the world would never have forgotten. The salute was a lifelong punishment. John F. Kennedy Jr. was surrounded by the whole country as he grew up and spent his adult years trying to establish his identity beyond the name he inherited. This is the hidden life of JFK Jr., the portions that the tabloids overlooked, the secret decisions, the covert plans, and the unresolved mysteries. John was born on November 25, 1960, as the son of a young president and a glamorous first lady. His childhood was not the same as that of any other child, because he resided in the White House and featured in photographs that heralded American optimism. But at just 3 years old, tragedy struck. His father had been shot in Dallas, and the country saw little John salute the casket. That became a memorable icon. Yet, it was also the end of his life. Henceforth, he was to be called always by his childhood name, John, the son of the fallen hero of America. John attempted to get out of the burden of history as he got older. He went to Brown University, studied law, and tried various ways, worked as a prosecutor, and then experimented with acting, and finally opened his own magazine. John did not want to be put in a box, unlike many people who wanted him to jump into politics. The changes in his careers were not marked by indecision, but by the wish to establish his own identity in the world that kept on reminding him of his father. As a political magazine, he introduced George in 1995, a glossy magazine that no one had done before. Its covers combined both celebrities and politicians, in order to make politics attractive to a new generation. At one time, it appeared that he had discovered his vocation, not as a politician, but as a mediator of culture and service to people. Behind the success, there was unremitting pressure. Every step was criticized by the media. Investors wanted to see results, and critics tended to reject the magazine. John was not only constructing a publication, but a struggle against his identity. His personal life was as complicated as well. He got married in 1996 to Carolyn Bessette, who was a fashionable publicist with no interest in fame. They secretly got married on a Georgia island, and this revealed that John wanted privacy. But the shadow of fame went not away. A love-filled marriage would be characterized by friends later as a marriage that was marred by quarrels over children, careers, and the smothering press attention. There were exaggerated reports on their woes, and others disclosed gentle devotion between them. The reality must lie somewhere in between. Two individuals attempting to get on with a normal life in an abnormal situation. In spite of his aversion to politics, John could not keep away of public service. He would frequent the occasions that were celebrating his family and once introduced his uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy, on the Democratic National Convention to thunderous applause. To most, it was an indication of a potential political future. People thought that one day John would run in office, perhaps even the Senate of New York. But he never substantiated the rumors. He was trying the waters of a destiny which he respected and feared. John also loved pure friendships, behind the glamour. He was also close to his cousin Anthony Radziwill, with whom he spent a lot of intimate moments without cameras. Sports, dinners, and laughter were activities they connected with. The frailty that plagued the Kennedy family found its reflection in Anthony's sickness and eventual death of cancer in 1999, and this burdened down on John. These intimate relationships were more important than newspaper headlines, as the masses concentrated on his celebrity. Still, shadows followed him. There had been hints of stress and mood difficulties, some tales of fights and straint that trimmed his tranquility. Other people were telling me about substance problems, but friends usually refused or minimized them. True or false, such rumors do tell us something human. Even those who were born as rich and famous are not spared of the burdens of life. The Kennedy name can have been a gateway, but it also put John in a trap of expectations that no one would ever be able to fulfill. Then the night which brought it to a finish came. John took off on July 16, 1999 with Carolyn and her sister Lauren Bessette on board a small plane. They never reached Martha to her vineyard. The resultant search seized hold of the country until debris in the Atlantic was found. The report given by the authorities stated that John lost control because he was disoriented when flying over water at night without having been adequately trained on the instruments. He was a licensed pilot, but not yet qualified to work in the adverse environment that he encountered. It was a deadly error which led to the death of 3 youths simultaneously. The news destroyed not only the Kennedy family, but the whole country. To a lot of people, it was yet another installment of what many people started calling the Kennedy curse. Brilliant lives ended tragically. For others, his death felt like the end of an era. John had played the role of a future, a new Kennedy chapter. Then, at a moment, that future disappeared. His magazine went out of business, his marriage was a tragedy, and his generation lost all they had to hope on in what-ifs. But even in death, John gave more than mourning. Friends remembered him as kind, endlessly curious and playful. He coached young reporters, he inspired his peers, and he moved himself with a humble bearing despite his name. These softer legacies, the ones not covered by headlines, are his purest stamp. He was not a mere figure and a son of a president. He was a man who made attempts, failed, and made it his way. So what was America never really aware of John F. Kennedy Jr.? Beneath the shining covers-andness of the myth was a human being that was full of contradictions, wanted to be honored by his family, and heartened to believe in his own lever, ready to write his personal story. His life was not one but multiple: greatness, doubts, and attempts to unite destiny and desire without end. Even now his image is moving. We recall the child who gave his father a salutary bow, the young man who featured on magazine covers, and the husband of his seeking the peaceful meeting with his wife. The story of an individual cannot be taken by any other in its entirety, because there are documentaries or books which attempt to reconstruct his life. It must be something to do with science, and perhaps nothing to do with scandal or rumor, but the message his life reminds us. He presents a question to us. How are we treating people that were born into fame? Are we giving them the right to air, or are we incarcerating them in myth? And when we are struck with tragedy, do we weep at the symbol or at the man? John F. Kennedy Jr. was living between legend and reality. The greatest secret of it was that he was never only the son of his father, he was a human male with dreams and defects and a desire to be something. That was the reality America hardly had to often, but the reality that is worth remembering.